Affairs don't begin in the bedroom. They begin in childhood, in the part of you that buried her truth just to be loved, the part that's now screaming to be seen. I'm Alex Croxford, and this is the Deeper Love podcast, where we name the shame, face the guilt, and help you find your way back to yourself. So let's begin. Me and my ex-husband, we tried to work on the marriage after I told him that I cheated on him for about a year. We were having couples therapy weekly. I was seeing a therapist. I had a coach. He was doing his own thing over there. And we were really, really sure that we didn't want to end the relationship without having really tried everything first. Neither of us wanted to walk away with any regrets. And so we really poured all of ourselves into trying to figure out whether or not we could make it work off the back of this nuclear bomb that had gone off in the marriage. But after a year of trying really goddamn hard, really I got to a place where I still loved him and wanted to make the relationship work, but he no longer felt like he loved me. And it felt like I was just waiting for someone to fall in love with me, when in fact all that was happening is that we were drifting further and further apart. And it got to a point where I just knew that I had to make a decision. Do I stay where I am? I'm 38. I know I'm potentially going to struggle having children, considering we've just been through IVF. I have a ready-made friendship group that we share. We have a house together. We have a whole life together. I could stay in this. And even if maybe it's not, perfect, we could probably muddle on through. But having been doing this deep inner work on myself and realizing that who I'd been being in the world was somebody that wasn't true to herself. I was abandoning myself. I was performing love. I didn't let anybody get close to me. But the more healing that I did, the closer I got to myself, and the more I realized that I just wasn't willing to wait for someone to fall in love with me. Like, I wanted to have a life where someone really chose me. And so I made the decision, the very, very, very difficult decision, that I didn't want to keep going anymore. And I had a conversation with him and said to him, I think it was in couples therapy, like, I can't keep going like this anymore. I want us to separate, and I want us to separate for good. Oh, that was so hard because I was so scared. I was just about to just dive into the abyss of the unknown. But I just knew there was no other choice right now. Like, it just felt like this was what I needed to do. And so when the marriage ended, like, we made plans for me to move out, and it was all very amicable. It was very hard. Oh my God, do not get me wrong. It was so hard, but we weren't screaming at each other. We weren't throwing things at each other. We just decided enough was enough. And he agreed with me too. I can't say that either of us left the other. This was a kind of mutually agreed decision. So when I left and I moved into this beautiful apartment block, not far from where I lived, actually, I thought to myself, oh, well, that's the hardest bit over with. I have been through, the challenges that the universe has sent me, and I have, answered the difficult times, and I've faced my truth, and I'm healing, and I've got through the hardest bit that I could ever get through. I've got through the hardest bit of my life now, telling my husband that I cheated on him, and going through a separation and now a divorce. But alas, we entered what I describe, and I'm about to swear, so prepare yourself. We entered the year of the clusterfuck. And it's called that. And I laugh now. Thank God I can laugh now, because at the time I was not laughing. It was a year of really having to see some more very painful patterns around love and relationships and men, ones that I thought I had healed in this process. What I did was I found myself very quickly in situationship with a man who was absolutely, I mean, he was right for the lesson I had to learn, but that was one of the biggest mistakes I made as I came out of my marriage. I basically attracted a guy who love bombed me. Like, that's what I want to say. He, for all of what was wrong, what felt so good at the time was this man who just thought I was actual gold. Like, the way that he thought I was just this angel that had come out of space. And he wanted to call me his girlfriend after 2 weeks, even though I specifically said I didn't want to have a partner, I didn't want to have a relationship. He told me he loved me within about 2 weeks. Again, massive red flag, let's not ignore that. There were so many early red flags in this situation. I mean, I could list so many of them out, but when we first met, I said to him very clearly, I'm not interested in anything. I just want to be friends. I've just come out of a marriage. I can't get involved in anything. Obviously, what I didn't understand at the time, and what I have learned to understand, Adam has taught me this, and I can see this is so true. And I want to share this with you because honestly, this was mind blowing to me. Was that when a woman says to a man, I just want to be friends, and the man is interested, the man will not hear the bit about just wanting to be friends. What they hear is there is still a window of opportunity, or we can call it a woo for short. This is what was happening here, but I wasn't aware of it. So I was kind of kept saying, I'm not looking for anything right now. I've just come out of a marriage. It's been very difficult. But he was kind of like telling me all of these things about how amazing I was, how much he wanted to be with me, how beautiful I was. We started having phone conversations, and before I knew it, I'd agreed to go for a walk with him in the park as friends. But as I arrived at the pub to meet him for since the first time we met in real life, it became apparent within about an hour he wanted to kiss me, asked to kiss me. He was getting more drunk. The walk didn't happen, and as I said to you, I was so sure and so clear, I thought, that this was just a friendship. But again, towards the end of this date, he announced that he'd actually got an overnight bag with him with his underwear in it and a toothbrush. Again, red flag. Did I see the red flag? No. And he, continued to try to kiss me, even though I said no, 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 no. Now, the version of me that is sat here today and the version of me that had not just come out of my marriage would have run a freaking mile at that. Because it was very obvious that however many times I tried to set a boundary, although I did not set them well enough, I will just highlight that. Every time I tried to set a boundary, he would cross it, and then I would let him cross it again, and then I would say no, 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 and then I'd let him cross it again. So we already started off not in a healthy way. But this is what happens when you come out of a marriage, especially one in which you have cheated. You can find yourself in some very dodgy situations. And as this progressed, this situationship, as I said, he was telling me how wonderful I was, how beautiful I was, how we were having all these conversations about things that I maybe couldn't talk to my ex-husband about, like conspiracy theories, all of these things, which are like all getting really excited. But at the same time, there were so many red flags. It was like I was wrapped in red bunting and I couldn't see it. So anyway, as this continued and he continued to cross every boundary that I tried to set very badly, we got to a point and it culminated. I don't know how long it was actually going on for. It was a real blur. It was a matter of weeks. But by the end of this escapade, I had found myself in a situation where I was sexually assaulted. I had caught an STI and I had to call the police because he was harassing me. And I honestly thought I just didn't think it could get this bad. I didn't think I could have dug myself any deeper into such a painful hole. And yet here I was now having to deal with a body that was now struggling, it was in agony. The shame that I was experiencing through, again, allowing this man into my life and into my body, and just all the times that I really saw that I should have upheld boundaries, and I didn't. I let him cross them over and over again. I was, yeah, I mean, it got worse. And even after that ended, I mean, he was harassing me like every time I blocked him on something, he would find another way to contact me. There was one day where I don't know how he got so many different telephone numbers, but he kept cancelling his number and then finding another number to call me on or message me on. And there was, emails, Facebook, Instagram. He'd start new Instagram accounts to try and message me. Like, it was an incredibly stressful time. And I'm so grateful that I was living in a building that was really well protected with a lot of security. So, and the police took it really seriously, and he did stop, and that was it. But it was really just taking me dark, like into a whole nother hole that I didn't know that I was going to go into. And I mean, you'd think that would have been the last of the lessons. There were more a few months later with more like men that, again, there were so many red flags and I just chose to ignore them. But the thing is, I am grateful because, and I will go back and tell a little bit more about why this happened, but I had to go through that because I still hadn't learned my lesson. And there were still parts of me that were looking for external validation, looking for love, looking to feel wanted, to feel chosen. There was the part of me that was like, I'm just going to have fun. I want to have fun. I'm a single woman again now in my late 30s. I just want to have fun. But honestly, none of these things were fun. Even if they felt like it while I was in the middle of it, none of them were fun. And every single one, there were consequences. Every single one led me deeper down into a hole of shame, of regret, of why did I do that? Like, hating myself for doing it. And that was eventually what led me to turning to celibacy, because I just realized, Alex, you have to fucking stop. I still remember actually being in the shower. This was the moment where I was just like, my body is screaming at me to stop. And there was just water running down my face, tears streaming down my face. And I just realized, you have to do something radical now. Like, you have to break this pattern in a whole nother way. And that's when I chose to become celibate, because I realized that if I was on this healing journey, if I was on a journey to learn how to love myself, if I was on a journey to have a relationship with somebody that was going to really love and care for me in the way that I truly longed for, then I had to take responsibility for stopping what was happening on my end. And that was, I kept falling into this chaos or this drama or this like very unhealthy patterns with men again. And so that's eventually why I chose celibacy, and that is why I can look back and I can be grateful for all of the fuck ups that I made that year, because I had to make them in order to make a radical decision. And then off the back of that, to meet Adam, who was also on a celibacy journey. But let's just like go backwards a little bit, because, why would a woman who's just been through the darkest of dark nights of the soul. I mean, I went through so many dark nights of the soul, I can't even tell you. But the end of the relationship, like what happened? Why was I choosing such bad men? Like, I hadn't got a great track record, but I chose better than this. This was like the worst that I'd done. And really, what was happening underneath all of this was an extreme version of me abandoning myself to be chosen. The pattern of him crossing a boundary that I had set because I didn't uphold it was happening repeatedly. It was happening like several times a week, sometimes several times that we'd be meeting with each other. And so it was building and building and building and building and building to the point where now I had specifically asked him not to do something that he did again, but this time it was a serious violation. And it was only really because of that experience that I began to understand that when we set a boundary with someone, there has to be a consequence. Like, you can't just keep saying to someone, stop doing this, don't do this, I don't want you to do that, because they will push it. If they are not conscious, or if they are unkind, or they have a part of them that is reaching for something that their conscious mind isn't going to stop them from doing, then we have to be responsible for saying, if you do that one more time, I will ask you to leave. Right? And that's what I should have done. And I don't blame myself. This isn't about blaming myself for being sexually violated, but I need to understand what my part was in it so that I can not repeat that pattern again, and how I could learn from it. But also, this is another reason why I ended up doing this, because I think that my body didn't know how to register danger. Because the way that I responded to, or my central nervous system response, is often to freeze. And so I will go into almost a shutdown, like the mind disconnects. I don't scream, I don't run, I don't say no. And that's not because I didn't want it to happen, but because my body was trying to survive. And so that freeze response can often happen in the lead up to something big, like in the moments in the moments in the lead up to the assault, when there's a sign that something's off, but I overrode it to be nice, or to be easy, or to be wanted. And, this is different for different people. This was my experience. I didn't have an experience of chaos in my childhood around love, but some people do. And sometimes we will chase chaos because it is familiar in our lives. It is a familiar feeling for our body to be in chaos. And this is obviously a very chaotic situation to be in. If you've cheated and the shame is still eating you alive, if you keep ending up with men who can't love you the way you need, the healed heart is where this cycle ends. It's 6 months with me, 10 women, and we heal the root, not just the surface. And you'll finally learn how to choose love without betraying yourself. We start October the 9th. There are a few spots left. If this is calling for you, the link is waiting in my show notes. So, rather than blaming myself, rather than saying, why did I let this happen? What I wanted to start asking was, what was my nervous system trying to do for me? Or what part of me believed that this was love or attention or aliveness? Because then I got to meet the part of me who stayed in something that was, quite frankly, like full of alarm bells. And rather than punishing myself, which I haven't done, I've used it as a way to explore, why do we keep ending up in these situations? I know that I'm not the only woman who has ended up in quite a shadowy relationship after their marriage ended because of an affair. And the other reason I believe this sometimes happens is because we still don't actually believe that we're worthy of of deep, connected, intimate love. So we will keep finding men who could never, ever give it to us because it feeds the story. I am so bad that I had an affair. I am shameful. So I will find men who are vibrating at that same frequency, who will unconsciously play their part in reaffirming the story that you're a bad person, that you don't deserve to be loved, that you're never going to have your needs met. And this was exactly what happened to me. And I had to keep having that replayed to me with every man that I got involved with until I eventually saw through it and realized I had to take responsibility for what was showing up in my life. I was not able to, in every one of these situations, whoever the partner was, to advocate for myself, to say when something didn't feel right, to say when I was upset, to have boundaries and to stick to them, to be willing to really stand in my own fire and my own truth and say, get out, or I need more, or this isn't okay, or don't ever do that to me. Whoever the man was, this was what was being shown to me. And so even though I was out of the affair, I was out of my marriage, I had seen so much about myself, I'd seen what there was wrong in the marriage, I could see there was no emotional intimacy, that we were very distant from one another, that we really hadn't co-created a safe space for us both to grow and to love each other in a really true and deep way. I was still betraying myself even after I'd left the marriage. And even though I felt like I should know better, I've been through this now, I should know that I'm not asking for my needs, or I'm not saying it no, I'm saying yes when I mean no, and I am betraying myself, I still kept doing it. And that's where the shame came in. Because I should know better is a thought that is spiraling and keeps us in the mind thinking that we should know not what to do. Like, I should know more than that now. I should know not to betray myself anymore, but knowing does not equal healing. And if you're finding yourself off the back of your marriage in a relationship with somebody that can't meet your needs, even though you know that, or you found yourself in a relationship with somebody who is violating your boundaries, or not giving you the affection you want, or not giving you the words of affirmation that you long for, like, even though you know in your mind that this isn't right, there is still a part of you inside that is addicted to it, or that is trying to survive through it. And so it's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's just that you haven't become the woman who can choose differently yet. And I wish I could have done that quicker. I'm not going to lie to you, fuck me. It took me, like, I think 8 months off the back of my marriage to finally become the woman who was going to choose differently. And when I did, I really meant it. I was not messing about. And I dated a guy before I met Adam, and I think he thought that I was joking, or that I didn't really mean it when I said I was celibate, but god damn, I meant it. Like, I had made a commitment not to give my body to any man that I wasn't deeply connected to emotionally first. And that was scary at the age of 39. Like, who does that? But I finally chose myself. I just knew that I couldn't keep doing this anymore. And so perhaps you are in a situation that feels familiar to this. Perhaps off the back of your marriage, you thought you'd been through the hardest thing, and now you're finding yourself in situations with men that aren't necessarily serving you in the way that you want, but it feels like you can't leave. And I get that when there is a part of you that thinks that your aliveness comes from this connection that you have. And it feels like if I lose them, then who am I? Or if I lose them, then I really will be on my own. Or will there be anyone that's ever going to love me? Like, do I deserve to be loved? Do I deserve a man that's actually going to really care for me and look after me and love me in the way that I want after what I've done? Like, we have all these thoughts because there's so much shame still. There's so much guilt. There's so much low vibrational energy. And that's why I would say to anybody that's come out of a marriage, especially one that's come out after you've cheated, to really resist getting on those apps. Just, I mean, if you are going to do it, which I have no doubt that you will, you're not going to listen to what I'm saying here, and that's okay. I wouldn't have either. But what I would say is just be careful and just watch old patterns, because if we haven't really healed those patterns from the root, which I hadn't at that point, then you're just going to keep repeating them. And I know some people say to me, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of healing. When is it going to end? I'm so over it. When will I ever be free? And you know what? Relational healing takes time. Like, it just takes time. And I know that's probably not what you want to hear. And I wish there was a quick fix. I wish I could give you a pill. But then I would be cheating you of all of the lessons that your soul came to learn in this lifetime. And we only really learn in relation or in relationship to others. And it can feel brutal. In fact, it is the most painful experience, really, the hurt that we experience in love relationships. And yet it's almost worth it for what's on the other side. So if you're finding yourself in a pattern of chasing unavailable men, and that is no doubt happening because there's still a part of you that wants to be chosen by the one who wouldn't choose you. And I know that was definitely the kind of person that I chose over and over again, was the emotionally unavailable one. Because that's what was familiar to me. I didn't ever really believe that I was going to get chosen. Or perhaps you're finding yourself performing love, like being the version of you that thinks you need to be in order to be loved, but you're not able to rest into it. Like, it feels like you're always having to work, or you're always on to earn their love and earn their attention, which is quite frankly exhausting. Or perhaps you're mistaking chemistry for connection because your body is addicted to the high of being seen by someone and then the crash when you're not. Because even though that sounds so painful, like, honestly, our central nervous systems can find some pleasure in that. Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body and the part of us that almost is addicted to the pain that we experience. And we will unconsciously go and find people, places, and things to feed that pain body, because even though we want it to stop, we also don't. And so that's where we find ourselves in these hot, cold situations. Or maybe you find yourself ghosting the nice guy. You're just like, oh no, he's just too nice. Like, he's just too nice. And you know what? Sometimes that's true. Sometimes the nice guys, it feels performative and it feels false and it feels icky in our systems. But often we can actually let go of the good guys, not the performative good guys, the actual good guys, because our systems are not wired for a healthy dynamic. And that doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that your nervous system can't trust safety yet. And actually, when I got together with Adam, I really specifically remember, because I had really learned in my year of the clusterfuck, what it felt like to experience unsafety in my body around a man. When I got together with Adam, I suddenly felt the charge that was normally in my system. It was normally across my heart space or my solar plexus, and it felt like an ache almost. I realized that I didn't have that when I was with Adam. And if I hadn't have done all the work that I had to begin to understand that this feeling in my body wasn't nervous anticipation, it wasn't lust or excitement or, oh my God, he might be the one, oh my God, like visioning our, future together. This was fear in my body. Like my body was actually giving me a signal, an alarm bell to get the fuck out. And I'd noticed that I'd had that in every single one of these situations that I'd been in. But I had ignored it because I thought it was a sign of excitement, of something that was happening, that I really wanted it to happen. But because I realized it wasn't, and when I got together with Adam, it wasn't there, I was able to recognize that this quietness in my body wasn't actually a bad sign. It wasn't get the fuck out because you don't have this kind of giddy, crazy feeling. It was, oh, stay because this feels safe. So sometimes, like, I hear a lot of relationship and love and relationship kind of coaches on Instagram saying, just trust your gut knows. I would actually say your gut isn't always your truth. Like sometimes your gut is your trauma, or how you are interpreting the response in your body isn't actually what it's trying to say to you. The man that you feel nothing with yet might actually be the safest one for your system, but you don't know how to feel safety yet. And so I want to reiterate, this isn't because you're broken. This isn't about being broken. No one is broken. No one needs to be fixed. That is a myth of the personal development world. It's about learning how to feel again, how to understand your emotional landscape, how to understand your body's the sensations in your body. Like when we can actually have a relationship with the sensations in our body rather than trying to escape them, push them away, think ourselves out of them, talk to somebody so that we don't have to feel them, we can actually begin to listen far more closely to what the message is. So, like, the real work isn't about a strategy or just having better boundaries or just having a clearer red flag list or just having a really clear list of all the things you want to manifest in your partner. Like none of those things is going to get you what you truly desire, especially if you keep finding yourself in a similar place to what I did after my marriage. The real work is meeting the part of you that needed chaos to feel alive, because a part of you up until that point felt numb and disconnected and almost like you were going to die if it didn't happen. The real work is soothing the part of you that thinks love or fancying someone or that nervous excitement is actually anxiety, which was, hello, me. The real work is learning how to be seen without performing, like really, truly allowing yourself to be seen without the mask, to be seen who you truly are beneath the veneer of, I've got this, I'm strong, I'm perfect, I don't need anyone. And feeling the heartbreaks that came before the marriage, the ones that taught you how to survive love, not receive it. And again, I had to really go on that journey myself. And I only realized when my marriage ended that I hadn't really grieved the relationship that had happened before my marriage, because I was so pissed off with him because he'd cheated on me and I couldn't wait to get out, that I didn't actually grieve the fact that I'd been with a man for 3.5 years. We lived together, I can't even say we were in a really deeply connected relationship because we definitely won't, but we had a life together. And I didn't grieve it because I was just too busy being angry at him and wanting to rush on to the next thing. So yeah, I mean, it was a wild, wild year. And I think it was the moment that I realized that I wasn't really letting myself ever truly be seen by someone. I've always just been the woman that I thought I had to be in order to be loved. And it was only when I met Adam and I felt like this man is seeing me in a way that I've never had before, and that I'd never let anyone before, that I started to realize what it could feel like to have a truly intimate relationship, and one where I could really share how I actually truly felt rather than just what I thought I needed to say in order to keep the peace, to keep everyone happy. So if you keep choosing men who hurt you or are unavailable or aren't able to meet your needs, it's not because you're broken, it's because your body doesn't yet know another way. And that can change. 100% that can change. If I did it, you can do it. I am not special. I just committed, and I didn't just try and do it through willpower, because that ain't going to work. The only way that it will work is through coming home to the part of you who still thinks that disconnection or chaos or emotional unavailability or hot and cold is love. So if you are sitting here listening to this podcast, nodding along, thinking, "Holy Mother, I am this woman. I've been here," and you really are serious about healing so that you can break this pattern once and for all, then the healed heart is exactly where you need to be, which is my new 6-month group program. It begins Thursday, the 9th of October. There are only 10 spaces, 9 left as it stands. And I can't wait to welcome you in so that we can heal this once and for all from the root. The link is in the bio. Thank you for listening to the Deeper Love podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find all the ways to work with me in the show notes. Until next time.